I was sitting here remembering when I first started to get involved in Washoe County when I moved here in late 2003, and I was involved with many of you in this room on what we called the Truckee Meadows Growth Task Force. And this was when we were growing so fast that we had to figure out how to slow down a little bit and how to do it well and how to do it sustainably. And now I stand here 2011 and we're in a totally different place, but the same people are here, they're still engaged, and it's been a really amazing journey for me since I did move here in 2003. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. I'm just going to go over a couple of things, key priorities that we have within the Office of Energy, and how the priorities that we have, I think, meld well with what our region can do in Northern Nevada to keep moving the economy forward. And certainly collaboration, which I know is a big part of the intent up behind me, is something that we look forward to doing with all of you. I have several key goals, as I said. I think as we all talk about jobs, creating jobs for Nevadans is something that's very important, certainly top on the list for the governor and our office. The world of renewable energy and energy efficiency has some potential where jobs are concerned. We have sort of construction jobs that are one-time jobs, but we also have long-term jobs with maintenance and energy efficiency opportunities. And geothermal, as was stated in the Brookings report, is a very essential part of the Northern Nevada economic base. Geothermal companies have done research over the past several years to really look at how their industry is affecting the supply chain, from drilling to equipment to materials, that kind of thing. And they put a 4.2 multiplier on their job base. For every job that they hire or they employ, there's a 4.2 multiplier behind that for supply chain. And that's important to remember, and it's important to support those sort of pre-construction jobs that geothermal industry can bring to the state. We're finding that there are jobs out there in that industry. Certainly mining has a lot of job openings. I was meeting with an industry yesterday, and they have job postings that they just simply cannot fill. So one of our jobs is going to be to connect those who need work with the skills and the training to get them the work that is available. And that's something that I look forward to working with all of you on through the workforce issues that we have. One of the other primary goals is to balance in terms of energy, is to balance long-term consumer costs with the advancement of our industry. And that is a serious issue in the state. We have fairly high energy rates, and we have an aggressive renewable portfolio standard. But those two aren't necessarily directly connected. There are energy rates, the cost of our energy is for several reasons, but we have to balance how consumers are going to be affected by our policies with the development of an industry that we think is very vital to our state. So it's something that we think about every day. We have to look at how renewable energy brings in a tax base and jobs and supply chain, as I said, and how that can affect university programs and curriculum. But at the same time, understand that some of the things that we do will affect our energy rates, and hopefully we can keep those in check, especially in an economy like this. A third strategic goal is to promote innovation in the supply chain, as I mentioned before. We had our office partnered with the Commission on Economic Development and contracted with NIREC, the Nevada Institute for Renewable Energy Commercialization. I'm not sure if anybody's here in the room from NIREC, there you go, on developing a directory of resources in the renewable energy field. So they have a directory posted on their website. It's nirec.org. And what we hope to do by creating that was understand where there might be gaps in the supply chain. If there are drilling operations that need certain equipment, are those types of services being offered here in the state? And if they're not, is there enough of a draw to bring those companies to the state? So we think that directory is as useful, and we hope to keep that updated with your input, of course. Fourth goal is to maintain strategic partnerships with state, federal, and local agencies to reduce the barriers and streamline paths to innovation permitting and environmental protection. That's a big mouthful, but what I do most of my time, 85% of my time, is collaborating with local, other state, and federal agencies to talk about renewable energy and energy efficiency issues. Certainly, we all know that Nevada has about 86.5% federally owned land. We have a permanent partner in the federal agencies, BLM, Department of the Interior, DOE. They've all been very cooperative and very helpful to us to understand the permitting issues, to understand the environmental issues associated with renewable energy projects. And certainly, I think we've helped create a line of communication that is hopefully facilitating more expedient permitting processes and projects to get on the ground. At the local level, we've found that our office can sometimes act as a facilitator. If there is a project in an area that is somehow sensitive to local governments or constituents, we have brought groups in to talk about those issues, understand them, and try to work out some solutions that everybody can be happy with. And that's something that we're happy to do going forward. We will also be working, of course, in terms of partnerships closely with the Office of Economic Development and the Governor's Office. On the board of the Office of Economic Development, we have a great friend in the energy business, Kathleen Chu, who is a Northern Nevada attorney who specializes in transmission and renewable energy issues. She will be a great asset to the board, as well as helping us learn from some of the things that she sees out in the world that she works in. A fifth goal is that we're trying to lead by example as a state, and we have a state mandate to reduce state building energy consumption 20% by 2015. Well, 2015 is going to be right around the corner. This is based on 2005 statute, so we're basing our energy consumption on 2005 levels. But what we also realized when I came into office is that we don't have any metrics to measure that. So the first thing that I've done is create a tracking system to try to identify where we're spending our energy on these over 3,000 buildings that the state owns throughout the state, and see where we can capture low-hanging fruit and really lead by example, hopefully also bringing jobs to the area and reducing our energy costs. We also continue to provide incentives through our office, both in green building and renewable energy. I have tax abatement authority over green building, and that is under the U.S. Green Building Council's Leadership in Environmental Energy Design Rating System, or LEED. For LEED silver or higher buildings, we provide tax abatements. You have to meet some other requirements, but essentially tax abatements for new buildings, as well as what they call core and shell buildings, and some existing buildings. And happy to do that. And if any of you have any questions or have projects out there, my website has all the information. And another very valuable tax incentive for the renewable energy world is our renewable energy tax abatement. We provide sales and use tax and property tax abatement for large-scale renewable energy projects, solar, geothermal, wind. We've even had a biomass project. And that's seen as very valuable to the industry in order to create a project that has an attractive price when they sell their power to an off-taker, whether it be NV Energy or another utility. We participate in regional energy planning. That's, again, something that I spend a lot of my time doing. The West, as a region, is looking at how to deal with our reliability, our cost, and our policy issues around transmission. As many of you may know, the state of Nevada has a renewable portfolio standard that's brought a lot of the renewable energy generation into our state, but we've reached a point where, one, our load is flat because we're not growing as a state at the moment, and we've reached our minimum standards in terms of the RPS, and so we're looking at trying to export some of our renewable energy to load centers around the West. And the western states, Arizona, New Mexico, they're in the same boat. Wyoming has a lot of great wind resources. They're trying to figure out a way to bring their wind resources into the region. And so myself, along with Commissioner Rebecca Wagner with the Public Utilities Commission, are involved in regional transmission discussions. And these are at the western region level. And what we're trying to understand is how we can share in the reliability issues, again, the cost issues, and how our policy, our different state policies can match up and create a very connected grid for a long-term future of the region. I think we've all seen some power outages. There's one in particular down in Southern California and Arizona that put 10 million people out of power. There's a reliability issue there, and we've got to make sure that we have a strong system going forward. I'm going to wrap it up here. We're also engaged in discussions with the industry, whether it be the geothermal companies here in the north, the solar manufacturing and generation industries all around the state, alternative fuel companies, electric vehicle discussions. And what we can do is really understand what their issues are and try to help put policies in place or revise policies that are in place to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the state, both in terms of economic value, environmental value, and just overall quality of life. Governor Sandoval signed an executive order early in his term, I believe it was in January, that directed all agencies to review their regulations. And this is a big effort. I have very few regulations in my office, but some agencies have quite a few. And what we're trying to do is really review all the regulations so that we are looking at possible duplications that have developed over time, possible regulations that are outdated now with either technologies or issues that no longer exist, and also trying to look at them from a business-friendly perspective. And so my office is doing that. In fact, I held a industry kind of roundtable to discuss a couple of my regulations and really wanted to make sure that we were doing the most to make sure we were business-friendly. So that's really it, all I wanted to say. I come from a design background and planning background, and I found that these fairly large-scale energy policy issues are fascinating, but they're also not too dissimilar from the issues that I was working on in the planning and design world. And what I like to think of is I would rather take 100 baby steps in this process and make sure that all along the way we're checking ourselves to make sure this is a sustainable industry, rather than a couple very large leaps where we may tend to regret it. So that's how I work throughout my days to make sure that we're making these small decisions and small actions along the way that can keep us moving forward. And I look forward to working with all of you and look forward to the collaboration here in the future. Thanks so much.